This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch terrible horror movies so you don't have to.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and today I'm going first.
And I'm Ashley Atkins, and okay.
So, we are having another fun episode where Ashley and I are pissed the entire time because this is take two.
Yeah, we watched this movie yesterday and recorded without taking the time to take notes or really organize our thoughts.
Which, to be fair, I felt best represented that movie. It just wasn't an enjoyable experience for the viewers or listeners or whatever.
Good correction. Yeah, no, it was not entertaining. We both walked away from it like, good God, what did we just do?
Yeah, we walked away from the movie defeated and walked away from the recording the episode even more defeated. So, enough build up. What movie did we watch?
Orphan, First Kill.
Yes.
And
Terrible,
let me tell you, it's awful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not good. So, to prepare, though, we also watched the original Orphan.
So,
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Everything I have to say is about the original movie because I refuse to give this new movie any sort of attention.
Yeah, we gave it enough last time. So, if you're a first-time listener, here is the way we do things. First, we give a plot summary, and we are going to give spoilers to both Orphan and Orphan First Kill, which we will hereafter refer to as Orphan 2, just for the sake of...
Even though it's a prequel.
Yeah, just so that we don't have to say Orphan versus Orphan First Kill. So then we're going to give you some fun facts. There's not a lot of fun or facts about Orphan 2, so...
No, they're all about Orphan.
Yeah, so we're going to mostly be telling you about Orphan 1. And then we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, which is the good, the bad, and the spooky, where we tell you what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we found spooky. We give you some overall thoughts, the Joseph DeStasio Memorial Line highlight, and then we tell you what we're watching next week, if there's time.
All right, Carter, do you want to take us away with the plot?
Yes. So... this is the original Orphan. The movie opens with Kate and John Coleman. They recently had their third child was stillborn, and so they decided to adopt a 9-year-old Russian girl named Esther. Esther is a very talented painter and singer. She's very mature, and she acts a little bit strangely. She constantly wears a ribbon around her neck and around her wrists. She dresses in old-fashioned clothing. She's very particular. And as she stays with the family, her behavior becomes a little bit more sinister. She understands sex more than a child should. She kills an injured pigeon, and she pushes and badly injures her bully on the playground. So the head of the orphanage, Sister Abigail, looks into Esther's past and discovers that the house fire that killed Esther's last adopted family was arson. People around Esther tend to just get hurt, and the Russian orphanage seems to have no record of Esther. So while leaving, Esther ambushes and kills Sister Abigail, and then threatens her sister Max not to tell anyone, and then she threatens to castrate her brother Danny if he tells anyone. She continues tormenting the family. She uses a vice to break her arm to make Kate seem abusive and to pit John and Kate against each other. After doing some research, Kate discovers that Esther's previous orphanage has no record of her, and she came from something called the Sarn Institute. The Sarn Institute is not an orphanage. It is, in fact, a mental hospital. They only take adults. Thinking that perhaps Esther's the daughter of a patient or something, she sends a photo of Esther. So Danny decides to search his treehouse, where he finds the bloody clothes and the hammer that Esther used to kill Sister Abigail, but Esther locks him in the treehouse and burns it down. He survives by jumping, and Esther prepares to kill him with a rock, but she's thwarted by Max. Later, in the hospital, Esther attempts to smother Danny, and she fails because it's a hospital. Like she choked him unconscious, and then they just gave him CPR. It was kind of funny, actually. It's like the worst place in the world to try to kill someone. He was already hooked up to the machines and everything. Danny survives, but Kate slaps Esther, and everyone just assumes she's hysterical and sedates her. John takes Max and Esther home, and just the three of them. So when Kate wakes up, she receives a call from the Sarn Institute, and that's where it's revealed that Esther is actually a 33-year-old woman named Lena with a rare hormonal disorder, which caused her to resemble a child. She's already murdered several people, and she wears the ribbons around her neck and wrists to hide where she was cut trying to escape from a straitjacket. So Esther tries to seduce John, and when that fails, she stabs John to death. Kate manages to make it home before Esther kills Max. There's a struggle, and eventually Kate breaks Esther's neck, and Esther falls into the frozen lake. So that was a pretty decent movie. Now this is Orphan First Kill. So the movie begins with Lena in the Sarn Institute. She seduces a guard, and she escapes by hiding in her art therapist's car. She learns of an American girl named Esther Albright, who went missing in the U.S. 4 years earlier. She poses as Esther and claims that she was taken to Europe. Alan and Tricia Albright are the parents, and Tricia brings Esther home. Immediately on the plane, she starts noticing Esther's different. She doesn't remember that her grandmother died. She's much more interested and talented at painting than when she left. But eventually it seems like everyone accepts that Esther is Esther, except for the detective, Inspector Donnan. He's unconvinced and he follows them. He is able to obtain Esther's fingerprints and discovers that she's not a match for the original Esther. Suddenly, Esther appears behind him and stabs him. There's a whole struggle, and then Tricia appears and shoots the detective for no clear reason. There's this whole monologue where she reveals that the real Esther died 4 years ago when she and her brother Gunnar were playing too roughly. And rather than let her son go to jail for an accident, she covered up the murder. So they pretended that she went missing, and for some reason she decided to accept Esther. I don't know why. It would have made more sense for her to just go, no, that's not Esther, and continue on, but...
The motivation was to keep her husband, Esther's father, happy, because he was very depressed when Esther was missing, and he was really sad, so she wanted him to come back to life.
So Tricia forces Esther to continue pretending to be Esther so that her husband will continue being a better man. It's somehow way too simple and way too complex.
Correct.
Tensions rise as Esther stays at the house, and eventually she attempts to kill Tricia and Gunnar. She fails, and when they get home, Tricia attempts to frame her death as a suicide. Esther manages to escape, and after a struggle, she stabs Gunnar to death with a broken fencing blade. The house catches on fire, and when avoiding the flames, Esther and Tricia end up on the roof. Alan comes home, gets on the roof, and saves Esther, while Tricia falls to her death. Alan immediately afterwards discovers that Esther is lying, and then she pushes him to his death too. And that's how the movie ends. Why don't you give us some fun facts?
All right, well, let me tell you about Orphan. We'll start there. So Orphan stars Isabella Fuhrman, who at the time was 11 years old during filming, and she's most known for her role in Orphan as well as her small role in The Hunger Games. It also stars Vera Farminga as the mother, and she's known for her roles in the Conjuring movies, Bates Motel, and Up in the Air. And Peter Sarsgaard,
Yes.
Who is known for Shattered Glass, Garden State, and Green Lantern. And some fun facts about this movie. So when Isabella Fuhrman auditioned for the role, she went into the audition wearing an old-fashioned dress with ribbons tied around her wrist and her neck. The actress Ariana Engineer, who plays Max, who is Esther's sister and their biological daughter, she's deaf in the movie, and she's mostly deaf in real life. She has cochlear implants, which enhance her abilities to hear and speak, which I thought was interesting.
I didn't know that. That is interesting. I did like that The movie did just feature a deaf character without making it like a whole thing.
That's in my good, yeah.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that.
They did a good job with it.
You say it's in your good. Just to be clear to the audience, I took notes on Orphan 2. I actually took notes on Orphan 1 with just the complete disdain.
I refuse.
Yeah, Orphan 2.
I mean, I technically did take notes on Orphan 1. The good says nothing. The bad says all of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, yeah.
I actually wrote that in my notes. I'm not just making that up right now. All right, so Isabella Fuhrman won the 2009 Fright Meter Award for Best Actress for her performance in the film. And Vera Farminga actually was nominated for the award as well. So this is funny. You'll like this. Because they were both set during the winter, DVD releases of both Orphan and another film released in 2009, fantasy drama called The Lovely Bones, were bizarrely marketed at an Atlantic Canadian Walmart retail location as Christmas films, with one Walmart in New Brunswick's capital city of Fredericton even going so far as to categorize the two films as family features.
I would agree that they're family features. It's actually a pretty interesting double feature.
I think it'd be a good double feature.
Yeah.
I don't think children should be watching
No,
it.
but if you think about it, The Lovely Bones is about a family being torn apart because of the child disappearing.
Right.
And Orphan is about a family being literally torn apart by a child appearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting double feature. I would never market it as a Christmas movie, but...
No. Well, that same location also had mistakenly categorized Marley and Me as a comedy.
Well, I mean, wasn't it, though? It was a pretty funny movie.
Until the end.
Yeah.
I don't think it's technically a comedy. But they also put the Orphan posters up next to the family films DVDs. So now...
They're like, Orphan, Annie, yeah. Kids movie.
To avoid this, now they just place them all in catch-all plastic bins for you to sift through. And then also some background information about Esther. In earlier drafts of the script, they included more information about Esther's past and explained why she tries to seduce the adoptive fathers because of abuse from her own father. And I thought that was pretty interesting and disappointing that, they kind of cut that out.
You didn't mention that CCH Pounder was Sister Abigail.
Oh, yeah. CCH Pounder is a Sister Abigail. And also, actually, that part of Sister Abigail was wrote specifically for CCH Pounder.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I really only know her from The Shield, so it's funny.
Yeah,
It's a strong change.
I don't know. I hadn't recognized her previously. But then also this movie is based off a real life case where a woman pretended to be a little boy who had the same form of dwarfism and was adopted and then terrorized the family, which is kind of scary.
Apparently, Isabel Fuhrman actually had a huge role in making sure that this movie happened. Apparently, she received a ton of people reaching out to her with similar stories. I'm sure they weren't all like, and it turns out they're 33 years old. Just a bunch of stories of the variation of when you adopt someone and it wasn't what you were expecting.
Yeah.
So she reached out to the screenwriters and said, like, hey, I'm still hearing about all of this stuff. And they're like, we have a sequel written. So she helped pull strings to get it made.
Honestly, I believe that. Doesn't boost the story for me.
No,
I did not know that, and it wasn't in my facts because now I have some Orphan First Kill.
Oh.
Well, Orphan First Kill, the mother is played by Julia Stiles, who is in 10 Things I Hate About You, Save the Last Dance, and The Prince and Me, and then the father is Rossif.
More like 11 Things I Hate About You, and the 11th one is being in this movie.
I have unfortunate news. This will be the last episode of Horror Sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That joke was too good to... We can't top it, is the thing.
That is not why this is the last episode. So, Isabel Fuhrman was 23 when they filmed Orphan First Kill. Because she's an adult now, and she's 5'3", and, not 11 years old.
Taller than Ashley.
Yeah, she's taller than me. They had to had to use forced perspective to make her seem shorter next to some of her same height actors. They also would have to wear tall platform shoes so that she would look shorter. And according to the director, they didn't want to use a lot of digital effects to age her down. They used some, but it was mostly makeup, forced perspective, and body doubles. I wish they did more digitally. I don't think they did a good job.
Let's get into that in a moment.
All right, but that's all I have for Orphan First Kill.
Super. So let's talk about the good. Dun dun dun.
So let's start with Orphan.
Yes, the Orphan was a pretty good movie.
It's good. Isabel Fuhrman's performance is great. She's very believable.
She was outstanding, yeah.
She's so unsettling as a character. It was phenomenal. I really loved that they used a deaf actress and she wasn't a token character. Mm-hmm. It was just, she was deaf. Esther used that to her advantage because she could read lips and stuff like that, but it wasn't a big deal. Yeah. Which was honestly I really liked it because you've got other movies that like they'll stick a character in a wheelchair because they want to diversify.
Are you talking about Friday the 13th Part 2?
Correct. I'm also talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah.
To be fair, that was the 70s.
That is a good point, but it's just nice to like not have a character with disability be a token character. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say it was underplayed because it wasn't. It just wasn't a huge issue. Mm-hmm. So I liked that. Do you have anything you want to add into Orphan, or are you going to follow up just with Orphan Kills?
I guess I'll follow up with Orphan too.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying so far. Like, my biggest point was how good Isabel Fuhrman was in her role. She was phenomenal.
I really liked the plot and the unreliable narrator. That was kind of interesting because both Esther and the mother, who were kind of our two narrators, were both unreliable. We got a lot into like what Esther was doing. We saw a lot of that, but we got to see the mother just become unhinged because at some points she just was like questioning herself, maybe like she was imagining it. You know, she starts drinking again a little bit. Then she
doesn't drink.
What?
Supposedly she didn't drink. She says
she took a sip of wine and then poured it out because she realized how stupid she was. Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty good. And then of course the plot twist was everything.
I was a little bummed because I don't know if it was how the movie was marketed, but everyone I've spoken to about this movie knew that plot twist even without seeing it.
It was expected for me, but the scene where she transforms from the little girl character to her 33-year-old self, where she's like ripped, like wiping off the makeup, and she just like looks so haggard.
Yeah.
Or she looks so withered. It's like, it was really, really good. So in my mind, that was more the plot twist than just finding out she was an adult, because I knew that already.
Mm-hmm. The characters were also really good in Orphan, which is a huge contrast from Orphan First Kill. They were fairly complex. They were likable. Like, the husband was flawed. He had cheated on the wife before, but he also, you could tell he was a very good, caring father. So, yeah, like, you could tell he did really care about his wife. So, I liked that.
Yeah, no, I think the characters were all really good. The only one I was like, was the brother. But also, his actions were also understandable.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, he's going to be upset that his parents adopted a girl to come live with them. And, like, that's just weird. And young kids can be upset by those things. So it's like, how he was acting was not out of norm.
Right.
That's all I wanted to say for the good, I think.
Mm-hmm. So for the good of Orphan First Kill, pretty much the only things I have to say is the music score is pretty good. It's fine. There's a scene in which they're fencing and they use the correct equipment. Okay. He still is fencing like a dumbass. Like, they're using saber and they're like bouncing around like epee, constantly giving up the right of way. So they clearly were dumbasses, but at least they asked someone. They were wearing their lame. They had the right weapon. They had the right mask on. It was good. And literally the last thing I enjoyed about Orphan First Kill was the fact that the mom wasn't portrayed as like a psychopath. It just is they didn't even do a great job. They just did a pretty good job at that. I'm just a little sick of the like family of psychopaths trope. And it was nice that the mom was portrayed as like really caring. Her daughter was killed in an accident and she was looking out for her son, and then she was trying to look out for her husband, and she became violent to protect her family, but it wasn't just senseless cruelty.
Okay, I agree with you. There wasn't senseless cruelty. I don't know how I feel about the fact that she was caring. I think that's a little borderline. I think she was selfish.
Yeah, maybe.
More so.
So now let's talk about the bad.
The bad. Okay.
And let's start with Orphan First Kill.
Okay.
So, the worst part about this movie by far is the casting of Esther as Isabel Fuhrman again. Isabel Fuhrman, when she was in the original Orphan, was 12. She was a child, and that means that no matter how sharp your eyes are, no matter what you Googled about Isabel Fuhrman beforehand, you couldn't see an adult there because she wasn't an adult.
Right.
So you had to see her from the point of view of the parents, where she was a child. They did not de-age her enough.
No.
And I don't know that you ever could, because...
I don't know. She looked like an adult.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm looking at her going, dang, that's, a 9-year-old little girl. It's not.
She's actually our age, interestingly.
Yeah. Currently, she's our age. Mm-hmm. I had a hard time getting past the fact that she does look like an adult. I don't think it decredits Orphan originally. Her performance in that was spectacular. I think she tried her best for this, but it's not an issue to get past. Like, you can't get past the fact that she's a 25-year-old trying to play a child. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't have this particular form of dwarfism to allow her to do that. Yeah.
But also, just Esther in general, her role in this movie is so much more passive. In the original, she was manipulating people. She was learning sign language to talk to her deaf sister. But that was like a way of gaining an ally. Everything she did was calculated, and it was smart.
Yeah.
Her role as almost the victim in this makes her retroactively less scary. She's very passive in this movie, just trying to like survive and escape, and it's not interesting.
So I think if they hadn't included that scene where she manipulated the guard at the Sarn, that you kind of could have gotten away with and be like, well, this was the first one, like she's clearly learned by Orphan, but we saw the scene where she manipulated her way out of the Institute. So we know that she still has that manipulation quality. So I agree. It's unforgivable.
And also, I don't care about her learning to manipulate people. I thought it was interesting how good she was at manipulating people in the first movie. I don't care to see her suck and get better at it.
Right.
She's not scheming in this movie. She's not clever. She's not scary. She kind of just lives at this house. She tries to rob them at one point, just take cash and leave. And it's so much less interesting is a character that cares about money. I was really afraid of this Esther that genuinely enjoyed the chaos and the pain she was causing. And so to make her this person just trying to survive is less scary. There's a scene with a rat where it's like her friend. Again, that just makes it less scary. It humanizes her, and it makes her less of like a scheming psychopath.
I mean, she was kind of a psychopath because she did kill the rat to put in the mom's smoothie.
No, the rat ate the food that had the sleeping medicine in it.
That's true.
So,
yeah, but she purposely gave the food to the rat.
Well, because she didn't know it was poisoned.
Unless she did know it was
she
poisoned.
She didn't.
Okay.
So.
I'm trying to make it scary.
Why are you trying to make this bad movie scary? Don't. It's not scary. That's why we have this podcast. The camera work is garbage. It's blurry and out of focus. The light has this hazy quality. Most scenes are this awful one color. It's either way too dark, or if it's outside, it's like really blue. It's just so unpleasant to look at. Nothing happens in the movie.
No.
She kind of is there for a while, and then the house burns down.
Yeah. Like, we get the reveal about the mother and the son, but, like, it's not interesting.
Yeah. And part of the reason it's not interesting is because the writing is terrible. All the dialogue is right on the nose. There's a scene in which she's driving the car and she puts on Maniac. There was no subtlety to it. There were these long expositions. The characters were either way too boring or just outright unlikable. And it just doesn't even fit in with the lore of the movie.
No.
Supposedly, she came from a Russian orphanage, and then they put her in with her current family, which died in a fire. In this scenario, she went missing and then came back, and then her family died in a fire.
That wouldn't, yeah.
It's just, it doesn't even fit by its own rules. I just didn't like that she was in on it.
I kind of wish... I had a huge issue with the mother knowing it wasn't Esther and bringing her back and not saying anything. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, if she had brought her back, like, once they got home, she, like, closed the door and was like, I know you're not Esther. Esther's dead. You're gonna do what I say. And, like, threaten her, be like, you can live here, live a good life, but, like, we're gonna have to teach. They take her to a therapist, which makes no sense in terms of the mother being like, oh, we're going to take her to the therapist. The mother knows it's not her.
Yeah.
She knows that the therapist is going to figure it out. If she's going to take her to a therapist, they should take her to a different therapist who didn't meet the original Esther.
Do you remember the psychiatrist had a pet bird named what? Like
Sydney.
Sydney. And when the mom was talking to Esther, she goes, hey, Esther, you remember the therapist, she had the pet bird named Sydney. And so Esther dropped that in to try to be like, see, it's me. She's like, oh, it's Sydney. And later the therapist was like, Sydney is a parrot, whereas this is a macaw. How can she not remember that?
Well, I think part of it was that the macaw was red. No, so it was the opposite. The other bird was a macaw. This was something else. But this bird was green, the other bird was red, and I think that's kind of what the line is. But also, I think it had
been 4 years,
right? I feel like that would be pretty excusable if she thought that bird was still Sydney.
Like, yeah, like if I didn't see, if you didn't see Olive for 4, Olive's a bad example because she's all black cat. If you didn't see Simon for 4 years and Simon was like a different color. Or if you didn't see Simon for 4 years and I showed you a cat that was a different color, I would forgive you for being like, oh, hey, Simon.
Yeah.
Like, actually, this is so-and-so.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a good point to say, like, it would be reasonable if she didn't realize that wasn't the other bird. But the therapist is hung up on it.
How many fucking birds does a therapist have that, like... A therapist has a bird. I'm just going to remember the name of the bird. It's not proof of anything.
It was pretty slim stance. And then the mother, like, goes in to talk with the therapist. She's like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. And I'm like, why are you going through this charade? Knowing what I know now, why did you put yourself through that charade? It makes absolutely no sense. You know, and of course, once it's revealed that she knows that it's not Esther, it's like, Why in the world did you wait so long?
Mm-hmm. There's this, like, I don't know the word for it, but Tarantino and Stephen King have this writing style where they don't know the plot. They kind of try to figure it out. And that makes it as enjoyable for them writing it as it does to read it. But if you're not talented, what it ends up being like is you writing is like Wallace and Gromit, where he's putting the train tracks in front of the train as it's going. That was what this movie was, is they just clearly they were just trying to throw in a plot twist and didn't go back to retroactively make it make sense.
No.
They just threw that in there as a fun twist. It didn't make sense.
What I think would have been more interesting is if, Esther ran away, ended up in an orphanage in a different country. The mother was like, oh, we need to bring Esther back. Said, oh, she looks like Esther. Be like, your name is now Esther. You are my child. You went missing 4 years ago. Like, read up on it. She died, blah, blah, blah. And then Esther, in turn, tried to manipulate them because she's 30-something years old.
You know what would have been really interesting? If just Gunnar knew that the real Esther died. But neither of the parents knew, and they were...
So the mother wasn't in on it. It was just the...
Because then Gunnar's in a position where he can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And both the parents accept that she's Esther, but Gunnar knows it's not her. That could have been interesting,
I
right?
think that would have been much more interesting.
Yeah. Because that puts the two of them in like a power struggle of he might have the upper hand because he knows she's not Esther, but he can't tell on her because he can't explain why.
Yeah. The mother's motivation of keeping the father happy is so...
It's so weak.
Yeah, it's weak. It is. Like, I understand it from a viewer perspective, but I don't understand why she goes along with the charade.
Yeah.
All right, anyways.
Why don't you tell us about the bad in Orphan, the original?
Sure. So I just have, like, some general questions. Esther has these fake teeth that she uses to keep young. And I want to know where she got them and, like, how she afforded them. Because she clearly got them before pre-Orphan First Kill. And if she was in a mental institution, though, like, how would she be able to afford these fake teeth?
It was Estonia, so it's fair to assume they have subsidized healthcare.
Okay. I
don't actually know if Estonia does, but I believe it.
It's not that but like she escapes the hospital. She's on the run.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought she got those dentures when she was in the hospital.
I think she does. I think you're right.
Yeah.
It just was slim. The brother was really annoying. I thought the Orphan was, while it was good, it was kind of slow. There wasn't a whole lot of action besides these, like, one moments. I shouldn't say, there wasn't a lot of rising action until the end. It was be like, action happened, done, we're flat again.
Honestly,
something happens, done, we're flat again.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Jaws theme, where it was like, done it. And it was just like a little bit, and then it would give you a chance to breathe, and then a little bit more, and it starts hyping up.
That's true. You're right. But it did move really slowly.
It did. And then conversely, one of my notes about Orphan is the payoff of, like, the final scene where they fight is like 40 minutes. It's so long.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of payoff.
Yeah, they battle all over the house. Like, all over the house. Then finally they supposedly kill Esther. They get away. But Esther survived, and then they continue fighting on a frozen lake. It was so long.
Yeah. It was weird because, like, there was a lot happening and not a lot happening at the same time over a long period of time. It was very just like, ugh, come on. But also, the scene where Esther tries to seduce the dad and it's blurry because he's drinking.
I didn't care for that effect. Yeah.
No, because it's like literal, like, sense of blur the lines because she's trying to seduce him and blur the lines of their relationship. And also it's literally blurry because he's drunk, but, like, we see him, like, maybe have, like, one glass of whiskey.
I think he finished a bottle of wine, which still...
Even still, I don't know.
It's quite a bit, but it's also not, like... You wouldn't be seeing things as blurry as this guy was.
We understood what the scene meant because they literally spelled it out for us, but the intention of the scene was not received. My overall note is also less is more. And while I do think that the movie is pretty simple for the most part, in terms of less is more, the very end, that big climax that doesn't pay off, there's a lot there. And I think if they had scaled it back, it would have been better.
Mm-hmm. So, what did you find spooky about the original Orphan? The spooky!
I kind of already mentioned it, but the scene where Esther wipes away all the makeup, I thought was very spooky. Mm-hmm. Also, Esther's whole mannerisms and personality is very, very spooky. You know, she wears these old-fashioned clothes. She has these, like, she's very uptight in terms. She's very formal, and it's very unsettling. And then also the blacklight paint scene where it wasn't spooky because we had already been revealed that she did paint with blacklight. But when he rips down all the photos, her paintings on the walls, and it reveals like big scale paintings of like her and the dad together sexually, that was, to me, was very, I guess, more unsettling than spooky, but was in my book.
Mm-hmm. If I could change anything, I would have made that blacklight reveal. I would have just cut it so that you saw her flicking the light on and off, and then it showed her face getting lit up by the black light, turning it on and off, but not seeing the art.
Exactly. I would change it the exact same way.
But that being said, thematically, the art made sense. It was something that on the surface seemed nice and pretty, but deep down was harboring a lot of evil.
Just I loved the art. I thought it was a really good symbol for her. Mm-hmm. But I do think they kind of gave away kind of the height of the movie.
Yeah.
By showing us it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. There's really only one thing I thought was spooky about Orphan First Kill, and it's kind of just I have to put something here. In the beginning, there's like this, I don't know what it's called, fake out almost, where they think that Lena, who's, Esther before she adopted the persona of Esther, Lena went missing, and so like, we gotta find her. And so the art therapist is just hanging out in a room. It's all black except for the alarm, which is silently blinking red twice every so often. That was a little bit creepy, watching the room be lit only by that occasionally. And eventually she saw Esther standing there getting lit up, and it could have worked like almost like a strobe light, where in the dark she moved a little bit. That would have been spooky. They didn't do that, though.
No, it was kind of a letdown.
Yeah. This whole movie, I wouldn't even say it's a letdown, because I didn't expect it to be good. It's kind of like just getting punched in the face.
It really, oh my God, it was like pulling teeth watching it. Honestly, I hate the dentist, and I think I would have rather gone to the dentist.
Yeah. At least you get something out of going to the dentist. This, I felt like it took stuff away from me.
Yeah, took 2 hours away from you.
So, some overall thoughts. This movie shouldn't have happened. I don't know why they felt the need to capitalize off of the popularity of Orphan like 9 years after it came out. Worse, 13 years after it came out. It retroactively makes the first movie less scary.
Yeah.
It's slow. It's boring. The characters are unlikable and incompetent, and it doesn't hold your attention. You just sit there bored for however long the movie is, and you're happy when it's over.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Orphan is an interesting take on horror. While the concept of a missing child comes back is not necessarily new in terms of like drama and other things, I haven't seen it in horror. Plus, it's also pretty scary because it's based on real life. But Orphan First Kill, while it aimed to answer some questions, it made even less sense than what we assumed happened, that Esther got to America. So it was really unnecessary and a waste of time.
Yeah. I don't have any Joe DeSasio Memorial quote.
I don't have any either.
There isn't a line really in either that's terribly notable.
No, overall the dialogue isn't the best.
It's fine. There's just no. It's
Okay.
just, it sucked. I hated.
Let's do a rating.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I'm giving Orphan 6 memorial flowers and Orphan First Kill a 1.
I'm giving Orphan First Kill 2, as in too many Orphan movies, which is, actually kind of a joke. I didn't hate the first one, but I needed something for 2. For the first movie, I didn't come up with a clever one to go with it, but yeah, 6.
Yeah.
If it was a little bit better, I'd call it a really good movie, but it's fine.
I mean, in terms of horror as a genre, it's not that bad.
Batting average of horror is miserable.
So, it might eventually make the major leagues.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been fun, but one thing we did realize the last few weeks we've been pretty miserable with our movies.
You guys probably haven't picked up on it because we took a little while trying to watch Friday the 13th, but it's been over a month since we've seen anything other than just the garbagest garbage that's ever garbaged.
Not even though. It's because at least garbagey garbage is interesting and funny. We've been seeing the most boring garbage.
Disheartening garbage.
It
takes
bland
a
mashed
piece of us.
potatoes of garbage. Yeah, it's really just draining.
So we're going to treat ourselves next week.
We're going to watch a good movie.
Yeah. We are going to be watching The Cabin in the Woods. Ashley has not seen it, but I have. And I can tell you guys, you should watch it. It's a very, very good movie. It's really funny, and it's definitely horror.
I'm very much looking forward to it. Honest to God, we decided this last night, and it put me in a better mood today to do this re-recording.
Yeah. If we had to re-record Orphan First Kill, and I didn't have a light at the end of the tunnel, I'd stay in Plano.
I mean, this is the last episode, though, so.
That's
For
true.
that god-awful joke.
It was great. I don't remember what it was, but it was great.
Me either. So, thank you all for listening. If you like what you heard, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Find us on Instagram, or we're also on YouTube. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And on that note,
Stay spooky.
Horror Sucks is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Editing is done by Carter Rhodes, and music and